We love notes.
Good.
We love notes around here. We rarely take notes around here. The Washed Up Walk-Ons presented by FanDuel in 2025. We'll get to them later. Maybe we can get Cory's thoughts on a couple lines on the Big Ten this year. Not sure how much of a better he is. But we are back for another episode, and we are inching closer and closer to the season. We've got Grant and myself here tonight. Who knows if Kevin pops in? We were just explaining Drake's attendance and how that works as well. So who knows? You could get anybody tonight. Today on the podcast, whenever you're listening to this, we have Cory Brada, who runs From the Hawkeye of the Storm. I'm not even sure how you would describe it, Cory. I don't know if you consider it mainly a YouTube show or a podcast, but I kind of view you as a YouTube guy.
Okay.
I view you as sort of like the premier YouTube channel in the space. And so I'd love to hear more. But Cory joins us tonight. I was able to join his show just a couple weeks ago. A lot of walk-on fans in the chat on that one. So we're reciprocating tonight. And it's the home and home. The home and home for us.
It's the home and home. Yeah. I'm not as good of a road podcaster as you are. So we'll see how the next hour goes. No, I appreciate that when people ask, what do you do as it relates to the media side? I'm like, I usually consider it I usually default to the post-game stuff. So I'm like, yeah, we're on YouTube, but we have, we're on all the podcast platforms. So, but yeah, no, I respect what you guys have done. I know, you have a voice because you're not afraid to share your opinion, but you've also lived it, which is something I can't attest to. So I respect what you guys have done. And Grant, it was good to meet you as well. I wish we had Kulik here. But we'll carry on. We had kids.
Hey, a lot of time. He could show up whenever.
Yeah,
he could show up at any moment. He's like the boogeyman sometimes.
He did. I explained who you were to Kevin and Drake when I mentioned that we were having you on tonight, and in the chat, Drake did respond to make sure that I relayed that he thinks poorly of Marshalltown.
Okay. Yeah, he doesn't have to sell me on that.
Well, and I thought about responding to him. Cory might just agree with us on that one.
Yeah.
Cory and I sort of interesting. I don't know what you want to call it. Small world. Cory's you're a year younger, right? 29, and you were in the high school class of 2014, right?
14. Yep. What, you
and
were
Cory,
13, right?
And I was 13 at none other than Marshalltown High School in Marshalltown, Iowa.
None other.
It was very odd for me, Cory, because we weren't friends in high school. I don't remember us really.
What I remember, the only real memories that I have is you and I think we played each other in that spring break tournament where we did the thing at.
Oh yeah, SBBT.
I won't drop the names, but we did it across a couple different people's homes and their driveways. The spring break basketball thing. I remember that, but we're kind of living in different worlds. So
yeah, you were in a grade below. You had different friends. I had different friends, and we might have talked to each other once or twice across our high school career. Saw each other in the hallway, but other than that, never really was a thing. And Marshalltown isn't a small school per se, but it's also not like I knew who you were, right? We knew of each other. And then a few years ago, just being in this space, I come across, I don't know if it's on YouTube or if it's on social media at the time, and it's like From the Hawkeye of the Storm, hosted by, wait a second, that's Cory Brada. I went to high school with this kid. What's going on? So I am very, very curious on basically the time frame between the last time I would have seen you in 2013 and then all of a sudden you are what I would consider now, and this is without doing real research, but it's not like there's 100 shows in the space. There's 8 or 10 podcasts in the Hawkeye world that
surplus. Yeah, there's a good amount
that get some play, and you are certainly one of them. How did that all start?
Well, not that I expect anybody to have listened to my show, but actually when I was probably 13 or 14, just entering high school, I started to podcast on Iowa. So my brother and I, I think he's a year older than you, Tyler. So
I believe so.
2 or 3. Yeah. So we started to just I was the talker, right? But he was kind of the right-hand man, and he, had our little camera that hung out of the laptop, and you know how that goes when you're just starting. So we just talked Iowa. We talked fantasy sports. We talked Iowa football. nobody listened. It wasn't on YouTube. I think we posted on SoundCloud. But I've still got copies of all that, so it's sort of that just the historic thing for myself and the family. But so that's how I kind of got my start. And then
you said you started that at 13, 14 years old?
Yeah, I'd say so. I had to go back and look at the dates,
crazy.
but it was definitely pretty young. Yeah.
That's amazing.
So then, so after school, I got my start with radio and worked news and sports radio. Enjoyed it. It taught me a lot as far as just being comfortable behind a camera and working with other people in that realm. And I, as far as broadcasting is concerned, there's people that I won't name drop on this podcast, but the local college there in Marshalltown, our producer there, or I should say
MCC, baby.
MCC. Yeah, that's the Go Tigers. The Kicks, or I should say KFJB studio producer, was like the lead broadcasting instructor at MCC. So there was a connection there, and so got connected with KFJB, Marshalltown Broadcasting, and got in the door that way, or interned for them for a while. And they had an opening news and sports and kind of jumped on it. And then eventually left that space, moved to Ames, and was out of the broadcasting thing for quite some time. Started my own small business. Wife and I got married in 2019. I'm kind of skipping over a lot. Got into some full-time volunteer work, which I'm still involved with now and love. And during COVID, I just kind of had the itch to get back. I just missed talking into a microphone. Never had any aspiration to get onto YouTube and show my face. But I don't even know how that happened. I got connected with Mark Rogers, who used to work for ESPN. He does a bunch of national Voice of College Football stuff. And so, I got connected with him, and he and I kind of had the post-game idea. And it was, to me, it's been all about, I've been blessed with great relationships with people. And I mean that seriously. Like, Coach John Patterson is a gem to our show. I mean, the show would not exist. The popularity of the show would not exist if it wasn't for him. Coach Gary Close is a gem for Iowa men's basketball. The relationship he had with Dr. Tom and with Chris Street is just, I think it's allowed me to kind of live during a time period where I wasn't alive. I was kind of able to relate my experience to the 80s and 90s. And then we added Kasheen Alexander a year ago for women's basketball. And she was, I know a lot of people didn't follow women's hoops 15 years ago, but at least at Iowa, but she was all Big Ten. She was terrific. She brings a spark to the show. So I kind of just grew organically. I didn't know what I was doing when I started it 4 to 5 years ago. But there have definitely been challenges along the way, but it's been rewarding and fulfilling.
And I'm not trying to expose your personal life, but if you don't do this full time, this was like a hobby passion thing.
I still don't do it full time. No,
okay,
not at all. And
it's hard to, because it's just, that's how media is. I don't even do this full time, but so you've got your own small business, you're volunteering, and you just, around the time COVID happens, you're like, I just want to. Are you a Hawkeye fan? Always have been?
I have been, yeah. Okay. I was always a Hawkeye fan growing up. Yeah, I hated Iowa State. I hated Iowa State with a passion.
But you live in Ames?
But I live in Ames, and I've developed relationships with some people that connected to Iowa State that has made me quite a bit softer towards Iowa State.
Appreciate them?
Yeah, I got a soft spot for Iowa State. And then what was your other question? Brought up something.
That was basically it. I was just trying to figure out. To me, it was so interesting when I found you that it was like, because
now you must not that I remember what you're not. I don't expect you to remember what I was wearing in high school, because that'd be weird. But I probably wore a lot of Hawkeye stuff in high school. So I mean, I was definitely not. I was not shy about it. Like my people that knew me knew I lived and breathed Iowa Hawkeye sports in high school. Yeah.
Okay.
We were just in different worlds.
It was just really interesting to me knowing who basically runs this space as far as like the media world goes. A lot of people try to get into it, and I'll tell anyone that the only reason we're around, that we found popularity, and that we've continued to have some sort of platform that's viable in the space is simply because we're the only ones that really dove into it. It's certainly not because of talent, or Drake certainly brought an interesting flair to it that was polarizing for a lot of people. But for someone like you who didn't have that platform of people know who this is because he was on the team, and someone that's not in that traditional media space that has a sort of an infrastructure of a career that then allows them to, hey, this podcast or the shows that I do is an extension of what I do professionally. It's really, really hard to stand out and sort of have any sort of staying power in the space. And so when I saw what you were doing, and then I realized who you were from Marshalltown, I'm like, oh, wow, another Marshalltown. Like, who would have thought that like 20% of the space is by Marshalltown guys?
It's a Marshalltown High School broadcasting department.
Yeah,
is what it is.
Historic. Everyone.
And 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 it was just really interesting. I was like, is he doing this full time? Is he finding a way to just grind this out? Because you do a ton of shows. For anyone who's not familiar with From the Hawkeye to the Storm, go to the YouTube channel. Pretty sure you're like in between 11 and 12,000 YouTube subscribers, which is better than I might be better than everyone. And you do a lot of you find you have a niche that no one else really does. I mean, you're pumping out like 7 to 10 to maybe sometimes 15-minute videos on single subjects, one recruit, 1 week's worth of news, something that like it just really has a niche in the space. And I'm sure you've identified that over time. I just thought it was so freaking cool when I saw that you were doing this a few years ago. I was like, shit, man, that's awesome. Like, that's so cool.
I do appreciate you saying that. I think maybe, again, all credit to the people that work with me, Don and those people, because the post-game show is the bread and butter. But I think the news, people love news.
Yeah.
So like, I also started this at a time that was advantageous to, like, YouTube was really taking, it was not that what didn't exist before, but that was about the time around COVID when people really started navigating toward YouTube and even more podcasts. I mean, I grew up listening to Steve Dace and John Miller and those guys, and I listened to a ton of podcasts growing up. Now I listen to no podcasts. So it is what it is. Probably the same yourself, but I think it was probably the news aspect of knowing people like information, and now with the transfer portal and NIL, and I mean, be quite honest, it wasn't planned out that way, but the Brian Ferentz stuff, like the fact that Brian was at Iowa as long as he was, created lots of conversation, lots of controversy, and there is an aspect of that's the stuff that sells at times.
Yeah.
So it's like you're not
people click on it. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not like, I never ever have been disingenuous on my show, because I've always felt like if I have to be someone I'm not on camera or behind a mic, I'm not doing this anymore.
Right.
And so that's what I've appreciated is I've gotten a lot of people riled up. Some people get really upset about my opinions. Other people like my opinion. And I'm like, well, if it works, it works. I'm going to try to be respectful as I go about it. If it doesn't work, then I'm not made for the space. So I guess that at the time when it stops working and people no longer care about how I disseminate my opinion, then I guess I'll just stop what I'm doing.
When you started it, it was just that, like, you guys just hopped on post game every Saturday and just talked the game. That was what it was.
Yeah. So actually, when I started it, so the YouTube channel existed, right? I don't know how the name came about. The name came about. I hope people realize how the name came. I always have to explain to people what From the Hawkeye of the Storm means, right? Because I've had people over the years rip me because of the logo, because there's a tornado in the logo. You're a cyclone. You're just a hater.
I didn't even think about it. Yeah.
The reason is because I live in Ames and I'm broadcasting about Iowa. That's the whole reason. I'm not saying it's going to make sense to everybody, and it's sort of a clever catchphrase.
It's a little nuanced, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's very nuanced. So, like, I think when I started, the channel existed, but then I collaborated with Mark Rogers. He had an Iowa channel that he wanted to birth, helped him build that to 1,000 subscribers. And so we just broadcasted on his network, actually, that first year with Coach Patterson. And then during that off season and with basketball, and it also felt like, I think was it year 1 or year 2 when the Iowa men won the Big Ten tournament. So like that really helped the channel. And then the Caitlin Clark stuff, that's, I mean, how generational is that? That happens to fall in the next few years. So
Doesn't
that
hurt.
helps the channel. Like, yeah, it helped to bring in a third sport to this. So yeah, it started with Voice of College Football. We built that up to a point where it was at least bringing in some revenue. And I still work with Mark because I feel forever indebted to him, to the help that he kind of gave me to give me a platform and collaboration in the first place. And then, this is year 5 with Coach Patterson. I think year 4 with Gary, and this will be officially year 2 with Kashin.
Wow. And so you've kind of built it around them having been there, or being their subject knowledge is deeper and closer to the programs that you're sort of reporting on. But some of the stuff that you do on your own is, to be frank, it's quite impressive. Like, what is your process for when you put together a video around recruiting and stuff like what does that look like? Because they're in depth and they're I know I gave you props on your show. They are like so well thought out, and again, maybe it's just because it's so different than what anybody else does. But I mean, you've got like what sounds very scripted, very well thought out, outlined, like sometimes 7 to 10 minutes worth of thoughts on a recruit and how they fit in. Are you doing that research? Are you just going to the recruiting websites and sort of pooling that information and then putting it in your own word? Like, what does that look like?
I don't know how I explain what that looks like, because usually it involves with a recruit. So I don't follow a lot of, like, I'm not reporting on when Iowa offers guys, right? I'm not reporting, for the most part, I'm not reporting on when Iowa's getting a visit. If it's a Caden Proctor, maybe we'll talk about that. But in general, a guy commits, I'm going to go try to find as much quote unquote film. Most of that's highlight film. So you got to read between the lines of it and take it with a grain of salt, as you know.
You're just in that huddle, aren't you?
I'm in huddle. Yeah. I live in huddle. You try to grab information places. I'm very careful about where I grab information, not because I'm afraid of grabbing misinformation. What I'm afraid of doing is not staying unique and authentic, because you start reading other people's opinions. I don't watch other people's videos, partly because I don't have time, but also because I there is that natural, I don't know what they call that, but you know what I'm talking about. Like,
you adopt their thoughts,
other people's opinions. And so, I mean, most of that is I am a note taker. I've become more of a note taker. When I first started out, I didn't take notes. Now I take notes during games, because I feel like, I know that for me personally, this is how I've always been. There's things during a given football game, especially, where I'm like, I notice something and I'm like, I want to talk about this. And it may be something that seems so small and insignificant, and I'll bring it up. And then, I'll get ripped for it. Like, why are you bringing that up? They won by 30. But I'm like, well, Don, I want you to tell me, why did this happen? Because I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
And sometimes, people are like, yeah, I noticed that too. So I mean, there's notes, but a lot of it's editing.
Yeah.
The editing process is probably the most time consuming for the 7 to 15 minute videos, I would say.
If you're going to pump out a 10-minute video, how long does it take to put together front to back?
Total? If it's just a general recruiting video, say a linebacker commits to Iowa, I'd say that takes me maybe an hour.
And you're pumping, and how many videos a week?
August to April, or August to May now at the portal. I would say probably at least 5 a week. I would say, if you include the post game shows. But I mean, like, again, if it only takes you an hour with non-post game, obviously if you're doing live streams, that's more time consuming. But an hour a week, or an hour a video times, that's only 5 hours a week. So, no, there is definitely more involved with it from the production side of things. Sure. You're trying to manage relationships and sponsors and these different things. But I'm just saying, from the video production side of things, it's maybe not quite as time consuming as it could be.
I don't know. It just is. I dig what you do. You have your own groove. No one else. I think there's a couple other people who probably have the knowledge, but maybe not the technical ability or other time on hand to do it. Like, you just have this very unique thing that I highly recommend other people. Anybody listening to this episode of the show, go watch Cory's stuff, because it's you are where I come now, from the Hawkeye the Storm YouTube channel to get my information, because it's quick. It's, you're a lot of the time you're reporting the facts, providing your opinions, but a lot of the time it's just like, hey, I want to know this. What are the quick hitting details here? And it's well put together. So, and I
I
commend you.
appreciate that. I appreciate that. And a lot of people don't like to read. You know that. Like
No,
in
I hate
general,
reading.
terrible.
society has become less and less about reading and more about listening. So and watching. So I do appreciate that.
When you started it, did you ever imagine that it would be what it is right now?
No.
Because it's grown to a spot where not that we have to like lay out the financials here, but like it's a financially viable thing. Like I know you have I'm doing your show the other night and we cut to a couple sponsors. 11,000 YouTube subscribers, that makes a little chunk of change every month on the YouTube. Like, did you ever imagine that it would be that when that started happening or it grew to some level of which you're like, I've now made $1 off of this thing that I started as a passion project? Was that what did that feel like for you?
I never did it with a view to making money.
Yeah.
So yeah, I never really thought about that. I think once you hit 1,000 subscribers, because for people that don't know, when you're on YouTube, that's when you can start monetizing and actually making ad revenue. I mean, you can get sponsors at any point, right? It's more about views, less about subscribers. So a subscriber count is usually reflective of maybe popularity of your show, but there's some channels that have a lot of subscribers that have died over the years. They still have subscribers, but they're not active. So I never really thought about it being some viable financial. I mean, like the business that I started 10 years ago, it's still running, and I can't imagine myself walking away from it because
Which is what do you do?
We own a janitorial company, office janitorial company. So I only do about a lot of it's bookkeeping on my end, managing that and managing a couple people
that's
that
the
work
day
for
job.
us. Yeah, I mean it's I don't even call it a day job because some of it's when you're self-employed, as you know, because you're all self-employed now, right, Tyler? Everything you do is your own.
Yeah, since similar. Well, not. I guess you were before me, but yeah, since COVID, basically the week of COVID, I turned self-employed. I was let go from a job I was working in a gym 2 weeks before the world shut down.
Yeah,
it's a good
well,
time.
So
I get what you're saying. You're always working. You're never working, and you're always working.
So to give clarification to the whole way this whole thing happened. So I moved to Ames, started this volunteer work, and I needed a way to support myself because my main concern was this volunteer work. That was what I wanted to do. It gave me fulfillment, gave me joy, felt meaning behind it. So basically, I determined I don't want to work for somebody. Like I want to see if I can make this on my own. So what was the easiest way to do it? Less equity, least amount of equity needed. So kind of just fell into that line of work. And, again, I've kind of backed off some of it to some extent, been able to kind of take advantage of being able to be more of a manager owner role in that world.
Very nice.
And then spend a little bit more time with the media thing. But yeah, like it does scare me. I'll be very transparent. It scares me to think of like walking away from something like that because that's always been my baby. This was always a hobby.
Yeah.
That's now made, been able to support us, which is great. So yeah, just thankful all the way around.
Yeah. I get I think anybody who's self-employed there's just that, there is no safety net. Like it's always on you. And so it feels like even if there's stability and you've built in structure, it's like, it can always go away though. You're always 2 weeks away from sitting there on the couch. Like, all right, I have to figure something out with my life. I feel,
and it's a real skill. I know there's, I know lots of people who have, started their own businesses in so many different types of industries. And it's a real skill to be able to manage that and not let it consume your life completely.
Yeah.
Like just the idea of not being able to clock out at the end of the day, it sounds so simple. Like, you can make your own schedule, and it is. It's like you can make your own schedule. It's great. That's what allows me to be able to, that's what's allowed me to be able to, start this post-game show, do this post-game show, put out videos when I want, because I can kind of make my own schedule. But then there's the aspect of your mind never shuts down. You're always like, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? So you really takes a lot of self-awareness to like, what's too much.
100%. I got in trouble with that a little bit early on when we first started this, because the way this kind of kicked off was I had grown very quickly on Twitter from like no following to like 5 or 7,000 followers of Hawkeye fans that are seeing at the time, just recent graduate hop on Twitter and start saying a bunch of things about the program and about their experience. All positive. Drake as well. Maybe not all as positive over there, but like very much so speaking his mind. And so I felt like originally this was very, very tied to my presence on mostly Twitter. And to this day, I still have an issue with being on Twitter way too much. But it was way worse in the beginning because I thought I always needed to know every little thing that was being reported from every beat writer, from every fan account, all the inside jokes, anything that was happening in the ecosystem. I needed to be in on it. And my wife was furious with me multiple times. Like, dude, get off your phone. Like, that was my version of like not clocking out and reading Twitter hardly work. Right. But I would like justify it in my brain as like, I need to see all this. Like, this is for work. I'm online. I'm answering DMs from fans of the show. I'm like, this is my work.
I still have a hard time convincing certain people that when I'm watching a ball game on a Saturday that it's work.
It's work. Yeah.
I have to watch a ball game. How am I supposed to do this?
And it's not work because there is enjoyment to it, and you do it even if you didn't have to do a show on it.
Right, exactly.
But like part of it is work. It will be used for work. And then I see the other side. Yeah, and I see the other side of it too now. I don't have a super hard time clocking out per se. The making your own schedule, working for yourself is amazing. I have a hard time clocking in sometimes, which obviously, right? Like, who wants to go to work? But to be fully transparent, I'm super excited to do this conversation with you tonight. I'm super excited to record with every guest we have on. But there is that part of me that on a Sunday, like 2 hours, or I guess like 2 hours ago, I'm grilling burgers for the family. We're watching Tangled with my daughter, who's 2.5.
Great flick. Great.
Yeah, we're watching Rapunzel, and I'm sitting there going, man, I gotta work in a half hour.
That's watching Rapunzel or Tangled with your daughter is much better than doing this.
Well,
Can I just say that? And I love what I do, but
it's more meaningful for sure in a way. But like, I shouldn't. I feel guilty sometimes because how many people would kill to be? Yeah. Like, oh, bro, it's so hard to talk about the Hawkeyes for a living, isn't it? It's like, no, but there's still like that. I've been clocked out all day. It's a family day. It's Sunday. But one of the things we do is we record on Sundays around here. So every Sunday there's an hour and a half, 2 hours of work at the end of the day that you're like, oh, I wish it could just be a full day.
Like a coal miner. You're just working super extra.
I know they're grinding
an hour of football talk on a Sunday.
They're grinding me to the bone over here, Grant.
Did you get your Culvers today, by the way, Tyler?
Okay, so
great question.
Cory's on top of it. As many on the
it's
YouTube
Sunday.
will see. It is Sunday. And as many on the YouTube will see, we got Graze Gourmet to go down there officially as a sponsor. We announced all 3 of these last week, our 3 big partners for this season. Recently, as everyone knows around here, I get my Culvers on Sundays, but we just had baby number 2. In the middle / later part of this second pregnancy, my wife kind of started to be like, the Culvers isn't hitting. Like, something's just not, just one of those things. So we're just going to make our own burgers on Sundays instead of Culvers. And so we've been off the Culvers for a while, but I was thinking before this podcast, what if we had Graze? What if we had a little Graze, Grant, to eat every Sunday? What if I could smack some chicken lips every Sunday at about 5:30?
I think they've changed it since I've lived in Iowa City, but there's a chance Graze is closed on Sundays.
Well, that would be unfortunate.
They're
rocking a Chick-fil-A situation over there.
Potentially. I remember the hours changed right before I graduated. So they remixed it up on me, but it used to be like, I remember I went up there and it
was closed. And
Pete was like, "What are you doing here?" He was outside like loading the truck. And I was like, "Oh, I'm here to get a slice, some lips, man."
I need a zaw. I need a slice.
He's like, "There's nothing here for you." He was like, "What are you doing?" So
Tyler, what did I send you? What did I DM you like a week ago? You want to tell you want to tell your friends
a picture of 4 pints from Culver's.
4 Culver's pints. 3
Grant,
of which
you're right. They are not open on Sundays.
3 of which featured cheesecake. I don't know if you noticed that.
Oh, I didn't.
So
I didn't.
That was a personal admittance on my part.
Yeah, Cory, big fan of the Culvers as well, and forever chasing them as a sponsor. But
yeah,
we'll finish the.
I'm gonna get them. By the way, I plan on. So that's one thing about me. Like when I decide something like that, I'm like I'll drive to their headquarters in Wisconsin and
walk in and be
beat
like,
their
hey,
door down. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, evidently Grant was right. You can't get Graze on a Sunday, but I had an amazing conversation with Pete last week. When this podcast comes out on Thursday, had an amazing conversation with Pete, who's been on the show. Pete and Kim featured as guests on the Washed Up Walk-Ons. Our favorite all-time catering company, business, restaurant that came and gave us food.
All those, yeah.
Brought us food while we were playing at the in Iowa City. They are still catering to this day to the Hawkeye sports teams and a bunch of other people. They are cornering the market. I think they have the entire market share on to-go and catering in Iowa City. If you need one of those two, they don't do sort of the dine-in anymore. They're just murdering to-go, deliver, go pick up your food, go pick up your chicken lips, a pizza, or catering to all those teams, events, all that stuff. They've done weddings. I've been to 2 weddings in the past couple of years that they've catered of.
They're big in the weddings.
They do they're doing like every Hawkeye player that gets married, they're doing. So Graze Gourmet to go, amazing people. I'm sending people down there all year to get chicken lips. If you have not tried it, you are missing out. And I'd tell you that, I have told you that before they were a sponsor. I'm going to double down now that they are. So back again this year, love Graze. As you
know what is open Sundays, Tyler?
Big Grove.
Big Grove.
Man.
Big Grove's open on Sundays.
Look at this.
Yeah.
I got the merch.
It's a beauty.
Big Grove Brewery on for this year as well. Kevin sent us a great text. He said, you bet with FanDuel, you drink at Big Grove, and you eat at Graze. And that's, if you're part of the walk-on army this year, that's how you do it. Big Grove Brewery, official Hawkeye watch party location. Official beer, craft beer of the Iowa Hawkeyes is the Easy Eddie. And the official craft brewery of the Hawkeyes. They're the official everything. Locations in 5 different spots. They have a massive location here in Des Moines, which I have not yet gotten to attend, but maybe that could be the Sunday spot. And I've heard Kevin said, when I mentioned that Big Grove was coming on for this year, he said, dude, I love their food.
I was going to say, they got good food too. It's more than just beer.
The beer's great. The food though. And if you've got a brewery that can just slap you a brewski that you of course love to enjoy, sit there and have a good time, but then you can also nibble on some bites. You get a little to eat. Big Grove's doing it all, baby. So I got some really cool stuff. They have like co-branded logos that I'm going to put up here at one point during the season of like, they are legit. Like they are literally Iowa Hawkeyes and them. They are one. So Big Grove Brewery, shout out to them. Gray, shout out to them. We'll get back to the show. Cory, we don't have to talk about you anymore. I know that it's not about you. That's sort of what's great too, is like over here at the Walk-Ons, we made it all about us. We literally named the show after us and how we're not as cool as we used to be. You're all about the Hawks.
I'm least comfortable talking about myself. So when I jumped on here, you and I didn't discuss what we were going to talk about. And you're like, I want to make this show about you. I'm like, oh, great.
We'll make half of it about you. Now we're in the second half. And I mean, to circle back a little bit, but another one of the, I mean, you went to the Kids Day scrimmage yesterday. You live in Ames, so that's, you're driving, you're spending time on your weekend. Like you are putting time into this that as a second or third thing that you do is impressive and admired. And how was it, man? How was your time in Iowa City? How was Kinnick Stadium?
I'll tell you, I'll say this, and I didn't live on the other side of it like you did, but since day one, the media day / Kids Day weekend has always been the most fun weekend. It's like kid in a candy store for, I think, anybody that loves just either their work as a Hawkeye media guy in some way, shape, or form, or as just a fan, like being able to be there for Kids Day. And so I'll be honest, like it's been a crazy off season, and just gearing up for September is super busy in August. So yeah, it's a busy work weekend, but yeah, being in there on Kids Day at Kinnick, so fulfilling. And I made the comment afterwards with Coach Patterson, because we did a live show from his place after the scrimmage. I just said, you appreciate that. I'm not a dad, Tyler, but you're blessed to be a dad times 2 now. I didn't used to appreciate the kids part of Kids Day, which is sort of ridiculous. I'm sure you appreciate it as a player, because you got to be the guy that was going around and signing for these kids. And so, but I now have grown to appreciate that aspect of it probably more than anything.
Yeah.
I don't ever, like, every year I take less and less from what I see at Kids Day. I take it with such a larger grain of salt. Like, people want me to draw these conclusions based on what we saw Saturday. And I'm like, man, I don't know. I had 2 people ask me, do we have a QB controversy? I'm like, what are you talking about? I mean, I'm not trying to be rude.
Hank
What
Brown,
are you
man,
talking about?
He's sneaking up there.
Hey, I will say before we get into it, because I only saw the stuff that was tweeted out and reported from guys like you that were there as well. From what I understand, it's actually like we have a good problem, or not even a problem, but a good thing in that, like, we have capable backups. Not only a capable starter, but a capable backup, at least projected starter and backup. So, like, yeah.
Can I just change this? Can I derail just for a second, Tyler? And I want to ask you a question, because you and I really didn't get into the whole Brian stuff.
Yeah.
And it's, again, not for a lack of respect for what you've built here at Washed Up Walk-Ons that I say this, but I don't know how every former player felt about Brian. Guys that were with him on the staff or played under his leadership, or at least in the same program. So you don't have to give me like some long explanation, but what were your thoughts down the stretch of the Brian Ferentz tenure before he got let go? So if you had to sum it all up.
Yeah, it's hard for me because I'm such a dummy, X's and O's wise. Kevin and I just had this conversation on the last podcast. Grant, I don't know. Wait, is it out yet? Yeah, it came out on Thursday. And I told Kevin, I'm like, if you asked me to draw up like some X's and O's, I would be, the people who listen to our show and come for Hawkeye content, they think I know what I'm talking about with football and stuff, and I do from a perspective and like experience. Specialists, I certainly know, like special teams. But if you want me to like talk to you about X's and O's on offense or defense, you would be wildly disappointed in me, right? And so it's hard for me on the Brian stuff, because the way that I view him, my perspective of him, my experience with him, is void of anything that has to do with his capability offensively. I think from a general standpoint, I could sit back and I see the numbers, and I see the production, and I see some of the, I think I called them the dark years the other day on the podcast, is like the Ice Age. I think I can stand here pretty confidently and say, I don't know the reason why. I can't tell you. I can tell you some of the general stuff that was repeated from most people, and a lot who do know what they're talking about. At this time, during his tenure as a offensive coordinator for the University of Iowa, he wasn't a good one. He wasn't an effective one. All right. That's just what the numbers say. And I don't think he would tell you anything different, because he's a pretty upfront guy. I know this from a former player perspective. He's a locker room guy. He is that's our general. We'll go to war for him. Like, he's got the hearts and souls of all those players ready to fight for him. Drake would echo that. A lot of guys would hear. I mean, I think we had Max White, who left the program and I think is now at Wyoming. We were going over his recruiting story when he entered the portal, and we had him on the show earlier this spring. And I said, "What got you to Iowa City?" And he goes, "Oh, it was Brian was the difference." Like, before he had even gotten to the program. And you'll hear that kind of sentiment from a lot of people. Really, really tough spot that head coach Ferentz put himself in there, because as unbelievable as a man as he is, how are you not jaded in all of your decisions and considerations of, should we go somewhere else? Should we hire? Like, are you really ever going to fire your son? Right.
And he had opportunity, just for the record, this is where we haven't talked about this in a long time because it is water under the bridge. And
yeah,
one thing I applaud Kirk for is I think he could have easily just said, I'm done. If the administration's going to do this, screw you all. I'm going to take my money and leave. I don't need it. And he didn't do that. He didn't do that. He loves Iowa football. He loves football. I don't know what he's going to do when he retires. So
I had a conversation with him a couple weeks ago, actually. About I'm not going to.
Would have been nice to know, but
well, I'll tell you about it after, Grant. After that conversation with him, I'm fairly certain he might coach until he actually dies on the field. I don't know if he's ever going to retire. I'm serious. So yeah, I think you're right. He is a football guy through and through, and I don't think he has any plans of slowing down anytime soon.
What I think the biggest thing that I want to say ticked me off, but just like where I really started to be actually frustrated, not just as someone who analyzes the sport and this team, the program, but also just as the inner fan that I am. Like, it was the move to make Brian QB's coach. Like, I didn't have any real issue when he was hired as the offensive coordinator, even when they were struggling. Because he was promoted, I believe he was promoted as QB's coach. Was it after 2021? I'd have to go back and look at the timeline there.
Yeah.
But to me, there was such an opportunity there. And I'm not saying it wasn't always part of the plan, but there was such an opportunity there to bring someone in that could help him, get to that place. He wasn't to that place with Kenny. And I don't know what that relationship was like. I think Kenny had checked out. I know for multiple people said in that 2021 season that he just looked checked out on the sidelines. He just didn't look like the Kenny of old.
Sure.
So, I mean, I'm not saying it wasn't always part of the plan, but I just had an issue with the doubling down and the heels in the ground that I felt like that I perceived from Kirk. But like you said, Tyler, it's how do you stay objective through all that?
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Yeah. And there's no other way to put it other than like, oh, you did it to yourself. Like, that's what you're signing up for. You are opening yourself up to the possibility that things do go poorly. And now you have to, as the head man, you have to do things that take you in the opposite direction of bad and negative. And in that case, that instance, that's going to be figuring out something, moving on, repositioning your son. I mean, unprecedented, sort of. Like, I don't know if anyone ever has had to deal with that in a Division I rank across the country anywhere. Like, and that's why it got so much fodder across the country. It's really tough as a former guy of two guys that you just would die for, like the best people, right? And really tough when you know Brian knows football really good too.
Yeah, I don't doubt that at all.
To see the struggle and know how many factors really go into it, because it's not just Brian, it's the players, it's the recruiting, it's the offensive line who got decimated by a couple early NFL guys, some retirements, some injury retirements.
Chris Doyle situation.
Doyle leave. Like, I mean, there is a shitstorm that went through that happened to also, in another world, in some other realm. If you play out the same situation and COVID doesn't happen and the offensive line has a little bit more continuity and you hit on one quarterback in those 5 years, shit, maybe Brian's just like your average D1 coordinator and he's still there right now. And like, it's
maybe you take Zach Wilson instead of Spencer Petrie.
Oh God. Yeah. That's it's crazy to think about that was it was down between those two. I think, something Coach Ferentz says all the time, or said all the time to us, I'm sure he still does, is it was usually in the sense of, you're middle of the season and it's like you're 4-0, you beat Iowa State in all your non-con games, you opened up Big Ten with a win, you're like 5-0 and you're ranked 19th in the country. And he's kind of addressing the team in a way that's trying to like settle them down and not get them too overhype on the media and the talk on the outside of the program. And he says, you know what? It's usually never as good as they say it is, and it's usually never as bad as they say it is. It's usually somewhere in between. I think that's probably somewhere how it was with Brian, but we certainly needed a change. Like, you can't, whatever the problem was, you have to do something about it, because you can't, as the Iowa Hawkeyes, stay at 130th. And, do I believe that with Brian, we climb out of that with some different people and recruits? Yes. But the problem is that regardless of if he was actually such a big part of the issue or not, the perception was that he was. And so now it was going to be a recruiting thing. It was going to be potentially affect coaching hires of like, well, do I want to come here and coach on the offensive side of the ball for the Iowa Hawkeyes that are getting such negative attention nationally? Like, it became more than maybe what it was. And that made it worse. It's like perception is reality. So, we had to go the way it does. Similar to the basketball thing, like with Fran McCaffrey. Like, was Fran actually as bad as some people thought he was? Did he need to be fired? Would he have turned it around? Would we have found an NCAA tournament win in the next couple of years? Who knows? But when you change something, it automatically, I mean, the momentum with the men's team right now is crazy.
Right.
And yeah. We happen to get McCollum, who's like a genius, like savant basketball guy. But also, like, if you just change for change, it's still going to get people excited because it's something different.
Yeah,
and so
exactly. Yeah.
So that's sort of where it ended up. And it was really tough as a former player to see great guys have to go through that. But I mean, hey, he landed on his feet. He's at Fresno State or wherever.
Yeah, Fresno.
And
by the way, like, the reason I asked you the question, Tyler, is because I'm circling back around to what we saw Saturday and just the perception that is this program heading into this final stretch of fall camp. And that is that wide receiver all of a sudden seems really deep and quarterback seems really deep. And it's like I'm not some big X's and O's expert either. I didn't play the game. I can't relate to that. But like, just look at the timeline. This is year 2 under a new offensive coordinator, new wide receivers coach. And by the way, that offensive coordinator also does a lot with, receivers and is involved with those meetings. And so
they've got all their guys in there now.
Exactly. So I'm just like, I have no bad ill will personally against Brian, but I do hope people can at least appreciate, even if because I think the run game, we can talk about this. I think the run game will probably take a step back. I mean, I know everybody's excited about this true freshman, and I don't know the situation with Jazz Patterson. I know Kamari is supposed to be back here soon. I don't know that. I haven't talked to anybody about Jazz, and it wasn't brought up. We got Kirk for a few minutes after the practice, and I don't think anybody asked him directly.
Did he not play?
He didn't get into like the end. Like, he didn't play. I think it was McNeil and Xavier Williams, and we even saw a little Braden Jackson maybe before Jazz Patterson. So it was weird. But remember last year? You guys remember last year was like, I know Caleb had the big start, but he was suspended for the first half of Illinois State. And we didn't see Jazz like at all for like the first month or something like that.
No.
Yeah. I was going to go back to what you said too, where how you take less and less away from this Kids Day thing every year. They are showing the absolute bare minimum. Some of the time it's like, hey, you're going to have a light day today. You're just not going to get a lot of carries. We're going to use this as an opportunity for some of the younger guys. So that could be the deal with Jazz. Could be one of 10 different things. But that goes for everything, right? Like with anything we talk about in the next few minutes, as far as speculation, it's like, yeah, they came out like they didn't run any trick plays. They didn't show you anything that they're really trying to keep under the belt for this season. Like, it was. Can
you imagine them running out with a fake punt at Kids Day?
They just would have rolled out the polecat
right away.
Yeah, run out, throw it back over to Bryant Whirl or Ike Speltz.
Yeah. The fact that both long snappers' names put you in a very elite group of people.
It sounds like they're going to maybe use both. LeVar wouldn't tip his cap one way or the other, but from what I've been told, one guy is really good snapping on field goals, and the other guy is much better on punts.
Is there potentially a snapping competition coming up? We're going to have a snap off.
That would be
snapper one.
I don't know the last time that happened. Tyler, do you remember a time when I was used 2 different long snappers willingly because one guy is better and one? How is one? You're a long snapper. How does that happen? Like, why would one guy be better? Is it just distance? Like, what is the difference there between field goal snapping and punting?
It's a good question. I do not want to get nerdy here about it, so I won't. Long story short, the laces thing on the PATs and field goals is a big deal. So if there's one guy who specifically is just so much more consistent with getting, with when that holder catches the ball, the laces are out and the holder can just set it down and it can be kicked, that takes a lot of stress off of that operation. And if that guy happens to be the guy that isn't the better long snapper for punts, then you could very easily, during my time, if there was another guy, I mean, if Subert would have been a little bit more consistent with his laces, they could have put him in for me. I wasn't like an issue by any means, but I wasn't great at at the PAT laces thing. I was a better long snapper than I was a short snapper, but that's sort of how that arises. It can be it can be a yips thing too. Like the transfer Worrell played for Boston College last year and has actually played in games, and the Speltz kid, he hasn't been under those bright lights yet. So it'll be interesting.
So this is definitely the platform to break long snapping news. From what I've been told,
number one source of long snappers here.
Yeah, from what I've been told, Bryant Worrell is the better guy on the laces thing for field goals.
Okay.
And then Ike Speltz. We'll see. I mean, there's still time left.
That would be very interesting to me.
Yeah,
because the last time, because you asked the question, the last time that's happened, man, I don't know if they've ever used two guys in the 21st century. As far as I know, there's been one guy going back to Danny Olsa, Andrew Schultz, Casey, me, Subert, Elkin, Spiewak was in there for a year. I mean, that covers all the way back to 2006. I know, what's the one guy's name who was before that? I think it's always been one guy.
And Tyler, can I give you another tidbit from Media Day? I asked LeVar this question. He didn't, I don't know that he didn't want to answer the question, but he did give indication, because I asked him about the 6 quarterback thing. I think you and I talked about you got 6 quarterbacks in the roster. Why not have one of those? See if you can get one of those guys to be adequate on holding.
Yeah.
Because it opens up more as far as trickeration is concerned. And one of the things he said is, well, first of all, we want to know that a guy did that in high school.
Yeah.
Totally understand that. But what the indication LeVar gave was that they have run Ryan Fitzgerald as a holder during camp.
Would love to see that coach's kid. Oh, yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I love it too. And by the way, I almost hit Pat Fitzgerald with my car. As I was driving into Kids Day. And I've never seen somebody be so gracious when you almost hit him there. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. And I rolled down my window. I'm like, "Pat, come over here." So it's kind of cool. He had the big tiger hawk on his shirt. It was weird. I asked Kirk about that later. I'm like,
Northwestern or just
I asked Kirk later. I'm like, "How's your relationship with Pat changed since Ryan's been here in the summer?" And he's like, "Well, he's always been close with Pat Fitzgerald."
I think they really respect each other. Yeah.
It's just so weird seeing him in a Hawkeye shirt.
It is. It is, but it's one of those situations where it's crazy. I don't know if either of you remember the Doyle interview that happened last year in the spring by Keith Murphy.
Yep.
And Keith asked him if he watches Iowa football anymore, or when's the last time he watched a game, and he hasn't watched a game or talked to any of those guys since, right? And you're like, holy shit, how does that? You spent 20 years of your life doing that, and then you just completely cut it off. And it's one of those things where it's like, hey, if they're gonna do you like that, why give them any time? And Pat might be the same way. Pat, and again, I'm not saying Pat was complicit or what he did was right or wrong, or if he did anything or he didn't, but he got ran out of there because of a little bit of a scandal, and he might just be like, all right, fuck.
But I'm just shocked. Are you guys at all? And I'm not totally in touch with the national scene, but are you guys surprised he's not coaching somewhere? I mean, I get his son's here, but I'm just like, as I saw him walk in front of me, I'm like, that dude is still young. I don't know how old he is.
He's got a lot of a couple weeks ago, I think.
Right, yeah. Yeah, we did. And it might be a thing where he got this unexpected sort of break from coaching that he didn't expect to have. Pat Fitzgerald.
So I'm guessing he's still getting paid. So it's a situation where if he takes another job, then he is still under contract.
Could be
that's
that
the key too, is where they always say like the best job in football is fired, or the best job in America is fired college football coach.
He'll be 51 this year. He certainly has another decade plus of coaching in him if he wanted it. And I agree with you, Corey. I think he could certainly get a job somewhere.
I mean, even Paul Chris took the analyst job at Texas, right?
Or something like that, right? It could just be a situation, and I don't know how old his kids are, if this is his only kid or what, but he could just be like, hey, I now have money. I don't need a job. I can now go and enjoy and watch my kids in college. And, then when they're done and they're off living their adult life, then I can maybe get back into it because he is that young. So who knows?
I have another question for you, Tyler. You said you're not an X's and O's guy, but your dad is a coach.
Yeah. Yep.
So explain that to me. How are you not an X's and O's guy? I know you're a long snapper, but your dad's a coach. Your dad played football. He's a coach. Doesn't that naturally make you an X's and O's guy?
I guess maybe you would. Yeah. When you look at it that way, you would think, when you think about it, Todd actually fucking loves X's and O's. Like, we used to draw up basketball plays and in the basement on his clipboards, and he was the offensive line coach, helped hold him in a lot during our time in Marshalltown. For some reason, and it's nothing against coaching or against my dad, I saw him do coaching in high school and never wanted to be a coach. And so maybe that was the aversion to it. Like, I never really dove into I've got my own notebook of 150 plays that I wrote up. When I played NCAA as a kid, I just rocked Vince Young and the option, right? I didn't dive into that playbook. I just wasn't a playbook guy.
You were an Ask Madden guy, right? I mean, you were an Ask Madden guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Madden knows best. Yeah.
Yeah, give me a random play and I'll use that. So
I'm the same way.
It is weird. I never got into the X's and O's. What I was going to ask you is, there are some takeaways. You get to see the guys for the first time. What are the biggest things that stood out to you the other day? I guess yesterday as we record this.
Yeah, I think, like we said, just way more stable at quarterback. I think receiver, and my perspective on this is not just what we saw, but almost more so when I talked to Tim. So, everybody flocks to Tim Lester at Media Day. All the media people, right away they flock. And then, they get their 10, 15 minutes with them, and then they move somewhere else. So I always wait so that I can get more one-on-one time with Tim. I know a lot of these shows, they've had Tim on. I've never really pursued it. Would love to have Tim on the show at some point in the off season, but so I was able to talk to Tim. That's my one time to really get to talk to Tim. And he just has a genuine excitement about the room. And I think I said this to you, Tyler, a week or two ago when we recorded on my platform, that, Kirk made the comments at Big Ten Media Day that, the wide receiver room is similar to where the offensive line room was a year ago. Yep. And I was like, when Tim says it's a great wide receiver room, then I'll believe it. With all due respect to Kirk. Kirk's an O-line guy. I want to hear that from Tim. And I think Tim is by nature, like Fran was, a very positive. Everything with Fran was, he's phenomenal. Josh Ogundelli is just, I don't buy it, right? You kind of have to recognize how people talk and coach speak. But I think Tim genuinely is excited about the room. And I went back, this because I'm a nerd like that. I went back and listened to my interview with him last year and compared just what his demeanor was and the type of the language that he used. And I really do believe that he's got 5 or 6 guys that he'd be comfortable using out there. And I don't know who they are. I really don't know who they are, because the guys that were out there that flashed for me on Saturday were not the guys that I'd been hearing had been flashing. And I think that's not because there's lack of consistency, but I think there's just a really nice group, healthy group of competition there. I thought Seth Anderson he had a couple of nice catches over the middle. I thought he was probably the best individual performer at receiver yesterday. KJ Parker was pretty quiet. I know Don Patterson brought up the fact that it looks like KJ is probably the backup punt returner. So that should interest people because, especially if Caden is logging any type of offensive reps, there's always a risk of injury. And, there's tons of risk of injury in special teams. So that's interesting. KJ was really quiet on offense. Jarrett Bowie was back. He's been out most of fall camp with an injury. He was back. Weegan was working on offense. He did have a pretty bad drop. It's the only significant drop that I even recall seeing from anybody. That's significant. And Don is a former wide receivers coach, quarterbacks coach, coordinator. He always says, like, I don't care how many you catch, I care how many you drop. Yeah. And so Caden had a pretty big drop, and that's what's going to hold him back. If his route running and his ability to limit drops, if he's just behind 4 or 5 other guys, in spite of his impressive speed, he's probably not going to play as much as Anderson and Phillips. I thought Phillips was pretty quiet too. Vanderzee looked good.
Yeah.
I think he's probably going to be one of your top 3 guys. And I didn't realize that kid was so fast. I think that's maybe my big thing. I asked some different players, who's the fastest guy on the team? And he's in the conversation. It's like Brevendal, Weegan, Sam Phillips, maybe KJ Vanderzee, Zach Lutmer. But it's those guys. And like, it's rare.
Shout out some of the exciting whites there. We love that.
It's rare that you get a 6'2", 6'3", or bigger receiver with that type of speed and hands. So when I heard that, I'm like, okay, maybe he is top 3. Yeah, because I know he had the big breakout performance against Illinois State, but that was basically all we saw from him last year. He dealt with injuries.
Disappeared.
Yeah. So I just think they're deeper receiver. I didn't get much of anything on running back. I think they're going to take a step back with the rushing attack, not just because of losing Caleb. You lose your left tackle, you lose Connor Colby. And then, if they've been dealing with injuries at tailback, that doesn't help the situation. I know everybody's excited about Nate McNeil. So maybe if he comes on and is, just this lightning burst, great. They could be, I think what I think we may end up seeing this year legitimately, I can't believe I'm saying this as an Iowa guy. I think you may see at times Iowa needing to open up the rushing attack with the passing offense. And I don't know the last time we ever said that happened, but I really, and maybe I'm just drinking the Kool-Aid, so to speak, but I do believe, because how many years, you guys know this, how many years have we watched Iowa football and they've not been able to run the ball effectively? More often than not, they don't run the ball effectively. 2020 was an anomaly. Last year was an anomaly. Usually they don't run well. So,
there's no threat over the top. The box is stacked and it's tough to open up space. Grant, I don't want to silence you here. You have any other questions for Cory before we let him go?
Yeah, no, other stuff from Kids Day. I'll just ask you 2, so I won't take up all the time. But from Kids Day, all right, follow the discussion. If you had to stake your name on one player you saw that's not named Mark Gronowski for the season, who would it be? Because it got a lot of, I'm even a part of it, right? Overreacting to clips or whatever. See one dude drop a pass, and it's like, will he ever even play for this team? We don't even know, right? But if you had to stake your claim, it's like, this guy is going to be something special in 2025. Who is that player for you?
That's a tough one. I so want to go to special teams.
You can. You can pick.
His name is Reese Dakin.
You can pick one of the 2 launch snappers if you want.
I hate to do that because that's not going to excite people. But I think the best bet is Iowa has the best punter in the Big Ten potentially and the best kicker in the country. That's what and the best and the best return guy in the country. Okay. So I know that's not the exciting answer. And by the way, I'm not in some rush, Tyler. So if you got anything else for me, we can finish it off with something else. But I think they're going to be phenomenal in special teams. And they've been up as, again, what I've been told, they've been up and down. They've been days where they've really struggled. But Drew was phenomenal. Didn't miss a kick Saturday. Reese was, he wasn't kicking. He was maybe kicking 80. They weren't actually 80-yard punts. I know that number got thrown out there.
They rolled 80.
Well, and maybe actual flight, but again, in the it'd never show up in a box score that way because it's from the line of scrimmage. So, but he was really, really good. And I tell you though, those 2 guys' health, I know maybe not much risk to injury, but those guys are going to be really important to stay healthy because Ty Nissen is just not restaking. He doesn't have the leg.
I don't think we have. I don't know what we have for depth, honestly. I don't think it would be a definite step back on both positions.
They need Nissen to hold though. He's a better holder than Dakin. So they need all the guys. I think it's kind of cool. If you're going to carry guys, if you're going to have guys on the roster, whether they're on scholarship or not, especially as we approach what we hope or we expected scholarship limits, roster limits, I should say. Hey, if you're going to carry 2 long snappers, use them both. if you know,
gotta find a job for everybody on the roster.
Do you believe that messes up rhythm? Bringing one guy on for field goals, one guy on for punts?
No, actually, no. Because they are 2 different things. Like the guys are still mentally preparing to go out there and do the thing their way, but catching a punt and catching, it's a different kind of catch. Receiving that ball in your hip versus sort of down on the ground as a PAT. The timing is different. It's different enough that you kind of have to manage both of them anyway, even if it's the same guy. And so I don't think there will be a rhythm thing. And for the guys, if that's the way that they're going to split it, that's the way they feel comfortable. It could even be better because, if you use one guy, he's got to go back and forth. I'm snapping a short, I'm snapping a long. You're trying to warm up both, make sure both are feeling good. If you only have to worry about one, man, what a dream. It would have been cool. I liked being on the field for both, but it would have been cool.
Yeah, you want to play. And let me just say, Grant, I came up with a better answer for you. So since the special teams thing probably won't, tickle any ears.
It was going to be a little interesting if they're like, oh, we came to hear about this new era of excitement, and you.
Well, half the time,
first guys you brought up were the punter, the kicker, and the 2 long snappers for exciting players in 2025.
And don't forget holding duties, Ty Nissen. But no, actually, I think a guy that I think has the safest bet to be like his first year where he breaks out is Cohen Intringer.
Okay.
And it's easy to read into that based on the fact that he has all the respect from his teammates. I'll have to post the video of my talk with Cohen on Friday because I said to him like twice, and I wasn't just trying to like kiss up to the kid. Like I have no interest in that, but I'm like, you sound like a coach. Where did you get that? I mean, he literally, if I turned off the camera and just audio recorded him, he sounds like LeVar Woods, the way he talks. Like LeVar is so calculated with what he says. That. And so, but that's how Cohen Intringer goes about his business. And, he jumped that screen pass from Gronowski. That was the one turnover from, I should say the one interception from an Iowa quarterback, I believe, at Kids Day was on screen pass. And he just jumped it, and it would have been a pick 6. So, by all accounts, it sounds like the safeties have looked really good. I loved the fact that Desmond King was there. I got a pretty cool shot, like right next to him, Desmond and Jalen Watson. And he was talking to all of them. He was working to Sean Lee. He's working with, he was even talking to TJ Hall, who didn't play. So I'm not in a panic mode about corner like some people are, partially because of the fact that Desmond's been there. And he's been there, it sounds like, most of the week. And that's third of camp. That's great. And they also have the best DBs coach in the country working with them. It sounds like TJ Hall's had a good camp if he can get back healthy. I just think they'll figure that out. And then I don't think they're going to really miss. I know this sounds crazy because they've had so much production at linebacker. But, man, I just think they're just going to pick up where Jay and Nick left off. I like Jaden. I like Carson. As long as Carson can stay healthy, because that's been his bugaboo, just durability. And Kirk brought it up Friday. He just got to stay on the field. But so far, so good. Kind of like Seth Anderson. Seth Anderson hadn't been able to stay healthy until this year. He's finally healthy. If those things come together, we all know Iowa's not going to have tons of depth anywhere. But if guys stay healthy, I think they've got a chance to be better on defense than they were last year, much better than they were in the pass offense than they were last year, maybe marginally worse with the rush offense. And I still think the position to watch these last 2 weeks before the season, or 3 weeks almost before the season, would be left tackle, just the left side of that line, because the guy that I kind of had pegged on my big board was Bryce George, the Ferris State guy who comes in. He was All-American at Ferris, and Kirk gave indications Friday that it's taken him some time. Like when he first got out there, he didn't transfer. He didn't have spring with Iowa. And I think bringing it, and I'm no offensive line, that's the least of my expertise, but bringing in a guy from the D2 ranks, and I asked Kirk this at the end of spring because he'd committed right about the end of spring, but bringing in a guy from a totally different level and he's only got a year of eligibility, assuming the NCAA doesn't change their eligibility rules for D2 guys. He's only got a year of eligibility remaining, and you're bringing him in without a spring practice. You're trying to get him up to speed for Big Ten football. And that's what Kirk said Friday is like, yeah, Bryce, he was a step slow off the ball to start, and he's starting to catch up now. But like the Dejon Parker thing didn't work, right? It just didn't work. Dejon, I think, was dinged up a little bit. Great kid, was wanted by some other major schools. Same level, by the way, as Bryce George from Ferris. Saginaw Valley and Ferris play each other. So I think Bryce may end up being the guy, but he was working a lot in the second team, left guard, left tackle. So is it Lauk? Is it Doetzler? Leighton Jones worked in some early at left guard. Bo Stevens is out. They need him healthy. He's one of 3 guys that I think they need him on the field along with Logan and Dunk. And I shouldn't throw out Peeper as well. So I know I'm kind of going all over the place, but those would be my positions and places to watch here in the last couple of weeks of camp.
And if Cory Brada of the From the Hawkeye, the Storm Show, had to log into a FanDuel account and place his entire net worth on one side of the over-under of 7.5 wins, what side of America's favorite sports book would you be on, Cory?
Well, the prerequisite, I'm not a betting guy, never have, never will be.
But if you were...
But the 7.5, I'll say the 7.5, I'll answer the question. The 7.5, I just... what have they been? Haven't they been at 7.5 heading into the season, like at least the last 2 years?
Feels like the last 10 years in a row.
Okay, and they almost always hit the over. I don't understand. I don't understand that because the Vegas people are so much smarter than we are. But was it 2 years ago when I was like, what are they talking about?
Yeah,
because 2 years ago the schedule was pretty easy.
Yeah.
And I didn't get it. And then they get 10 wins 2 years ago. So, and then last year, they flirted with it, but they still hit the over, right? They were still.
I think this year, if any, is like the one you look at and you're like, okay, this might make sense because it's the hardest schedule since who knows.
No, I think they hit the over. I think they hit the over. I think, and I haven't released a preseason prediction, and I'm going to wait at least another week to do that. But I actually think they'll be a better team than they were last year. And I don't really have a whole lot of doubt about that. And if you go back and look at the schedule last year, yeah, they get Penn State, but they get Penn State at home. They have Oregon, but they get Oregon at home. They get a top 25 Indiana team, but they get Indiana at home. And I think the big games that I'm going to be intrigued because, yeah, they could lose those, they especially Oregon and Penn State. But like that game at Nebraska and that game at USC, there's the rivalry aspect of Nebraska. There's the travel and the Los Angeles aspect of USC. And that's just like, the USC offense, the Lincoln Riley offense versus the Iowa defense. It's a fascinating storyline. But those are going to be the ones that determine, okay, do they solidly hit the over on that? Or are they flirting with 6 or 7 wins? If they don't hit the over, it's a disappointing season. I don't think there's any question. Like if it's 7-5, that's a big disappointment when you bring in Mark Gronowski and you're in the second year of this offense, even though you lost an All-American tailback and a great pair of linebackers, et cetera, et cetera. So I'd say the over right now on the 10th day of August.
I agree. And if you'd like to bet on that over-under, remember FanDuel. Log in. There's no code or anything, but FanDuel, big sponsor of the show this year. We're excited. Just a few weeks away. Big season for the boys here on the media side of things and everybody else on the fan side as well. We are almost there. Cory, thank you so much for your time tonight. We appreciate it. And good luck this year on all your content and the chaos that is.
We'll do it. We'll do it again. Happy to connect with you. Let's do a bi-week show or something like that. Sure. I don't know what your schedule is. Let's figure something out. Let's connect at some point in the season. And if you're always welcome to hop on for a little bit with Coach Patterson and I. I know that Saturdays are crazy for everybody, but we'll do something again. We'll collaborate at some point in the future.
Awesome. Love it. Everybody listening, thank you for being here. We will talk to you next time. Until then, peace.